Brian Barber does it again. Brian Barber does it again. Welcome on in. It's a solo High Hopes. Recording this on YouTube. Seltzer is obviously in bed. Morning show. Frankly, disappointed. I'm a little bit out of breath because I am so freaking excited that I have 3 sets of stairs here that I have to run up and down. I forgot a pen because I want to make sure I got a pen. Aiden Miller is a Philly. Aidan Miller is a Philly. And to me, this is a guy that should have gone top 15. I think he's a guy that, honestly, the only reason to me he fell was because he had a broken hand or a broken hamate bone in the spring. So he wasn't able to get on the field. And he was a little bit late. And I feel like when draft prospects don't get on the field, scouts get worried about him. And scouts are like, I got to see him play more. This is a pedigree kid. This is a kid that I think had he not had a broken handmate bone, probably goes a little bit higher. Frankly, given the amount of money that the Phillies, I didn't think they had the money to be able to sign Aiden Miller. I don't think this is going to be under slot. I think this is going to be probably right around the slot. So like 2-some million. Either way, like I'm so happy. I'm so happy at how they are starting to turn this thing with the draft. And they're going after high school players. They're not afraid to take high school players. And to me, you take those guys late because you bank on if they go to college, they're probably top 10 picks. Like I think Aiden Miller, if he goes to college, is a top 10 pick in a couple years. But you take him at 27 and you bank on the upside and you bank on him working with your hitting coordinators. I mean, the turn that a lot of the hitters in the system have taken in so far, it makes me more encouraged about taking a guy like Aiden Miller and getting the most out of him. You look at what De La Cruz has done this year. You look what Johan Rojas has done this year. You look at Justin Crawford early. Already, he's batting over 300 and was in the futures game, and he was a guy who I think people thought was a couple of years away from showing signs of growth at the plate. So it feels like the Phils are already having a nice turn here. Like some of the prospects that kind of felt like they were petering out and they weren't getting the most out of hitting wise, they're starting to become developed. I mean, it even goes up to Scott Kingery. I mean, Scott Kingery in his last 28 games is batting 333 with 1,000+ OPS. Like you're seeing it at all levels of how they are turning this whole thing around. And, John Middleton has made it a point, I believe, throughout the entire organization to say, we got to get the player development thing right. Because if you look at all of our success, our long-term success, it's happened around player development. We know what happened in the 70s. We know what happened with Chase, Jimmy, Ryan, Cole. Like we know how those teams were built. And they're starting to turn here. It doesn't happen overnight. I know they said the Phillies are ranked 21st in the farm system rankings, whatever. Getting a guy like Aiden Miller, who, again, had he not had the broken handmate bone, first off, I don't think he's there at 27. He's played in all the big circuits. He's been on people's watch for years. He's drafted as a shortstop. I think he ends up as a third baseman. But you're talking about like a high impact third baseman. You're talking about a guy who I think there's 30 homer potential there. And so as they go along here and as they continue to develop this thing, like you start to see what can they eventually be. It's probably too early to say he's the Reese replacement because Reese is probably going to be gone after this year. But we'll see what happens with Bohm if he continues to develop. I think that Aiden Miller, like 21, 22, I think he's going to be a fast riser. He hits everywhere. All he does is hit. Like he looks like he just wakes up and rakes. He's got a power swing. I mean, one of the comments here, Matt says a Josh Donaldson comp. I see it. I see a little bit of Austin Riley. And what's exciting about Aiden Miller and where he can project to is you look at him, right? And you see that he can fill that out. And the fact that they took an 18-year-old well, actually, he's gonna be 19, which is probably another reason why he fell. Like, there's nothing that drives me more crazy than we're not gonna take a 19-year-old because he's an old high schooler. Just take a good player. Just take a good player. It's not this hard. We don't have to try to fool ourselves and trick ourselves into not taking a good player because he's a 19-year-old high schooler. And then the Phils are the beneficiary of that. And like he's gonna get stronger. He's gonna fill out that frame. And when he does, like the potential is there to have a 30 home run guy, like maybe 280, whatever, that can stick at a corner. Whether they want to make him a third baseman, whether they want to make him a first baseman, like I think he has the kind of bat to where he can he can make a pretty big impact pretty fast. And again, I just keep thinking about the philosophy as to where they're coming from. And I know it seems like they're taking a ton of high school guys, but like the Padres have had one of the best farm systems in the sport for the last, I don't know, 6-7 years. Like they've been able to trade for a ton of players. They've been able to have, players come up and be great, or they've been able to ship them out and get great players in return. Where did Preston Mattingly come from? Preston Mattingly, Brian Barber has drafted a ton of high school kids so far, but Preston Mattingly comes from the Padres, and the Padres, all they do is draft high school. Like all they do is draft high school, because if you get them in your development system, you have a better chance, I believe, than letting them go to school and whatever, or trying to play it safe and draft one of these college kids. Like it's such a nice change of pace watching what Brian Barber and that Phillies draft process thing. It's been so refreshing. It started with Mick Abel, where it was like, oh, the Phils obviously are just going to take whoever can get to the majors the fastest. And Brian Barber's come in here and he's taking shots. He's taking shots on upside. And as a fan, that's all I can ask for. Like, if you are on the doorstep of the World Series, whatever, and you want to get a starter, knock yourself out. Like, fine. But I want upside. And I want guys that I believe if they go to school, end up being top 10 picks. And that's what I think Aiden Miller is. That's what Mick Abel is if he goes to school. That's what Andrew Painter is if he goes to school. That's what Justin Crawford is if he goes to school. And guess what? Given where the Phils are and where they've been drafting, like, you're probably not going to get those guys because they're too good on the field, or they're too good, as a baseball team. So I was getting nervous. I really was. The Cardinals took Chase Davis, which was soul crushing. The Cardinals have just been doing this the last couple of years, so I'm sure he's going to be really good. They've kind of been nailing the draft the last couple of years, and the hope, honestly, the Aidan Miller thing, it reminds me a ton of when Jordan Walker fell. Speaking of the Cardinals, like, Jordan Walker was a guy who was high pedigree that fell. And the Cardinals got him in the 20s, and he turned out at one point to be the best prospect in baseball, and has come up and shown to be pretty good. So I can't wait to dig in. Like, I can't wait to, obviously I'm happy doing the live stream. I was getting so nervous it was going to be Thomas White or someone that I just was not totally sold on, and that I was going to have to come on and lie to you and say, oh, this guy's going to be great. He's this good lefty, whatever. And I turned my phone on airplane mode. I put it on airplane mode so I couldn't lock in. I didn't want texts. I wanted to be able to feel the pick and feel the reaction. And I kid you not, and maybe this is embarrassing, I kid you not, I let out a bang, like a real strong fist bump, because it's such a home run pick. Even if it doesn't work out, like, obviously I can give you all the comps, I can sell you all you want. There's a chance it's not going to work out, and I totally get that. But it's the right kind of risk. It's the right kind of upside pick. It's the right kind of chance at getting a special player at 27 that probably should not have been there, and only fell because of an injury. Now, the interesting part, to me is that I'm very curious to see how this affects the rest of the draft, because they had the least amount of money heading into the draft, and without getting too nuts and boltsy, you have slot alignments. Sometimes you go under slot at the first round pick so that you can spread that money out throughout the rest of the draft. It's my assumption, I don't know it, but it's my assumption that Aiden Miller would cost the full slot. So they likely will have less money to spend throughout the draft. But frankly, frankly, just take the best player, take the high schooler, take the top 15 talent on the board. And if it screws the rest of the draft, I get it. But you have to go for difference makers. You have to go for difference makers. And there's a part of me that is definitely excited that it's a bat. You know, I listen, you know me. I love pitchers. But I trust where this team has gotten to with the pitching development, that they can find guys throughout and let them develop and come on their own. And, I think they do a good job of getting more out of the players than not. The hitting stuff, up and down the system, I think a lot of the guys are lower that are showing some promise, Clearwater, Lakewood, and they just needed an influx of bats. They did. They need an influx of bats. They need guys that can get up here and be difference makers, where you're not having to go spend $300 million. And, it's such a refreshing turn. I know I said that earlier, and I get it. And am I running on pure excitement while recording this? Yes, I am running on pure excitement, and there's no one to stop me. There's no seltzer to stop me. He doesn't have to go to bed. But I think about the drafts of the past where it felt safe, and every player felt safe. And I think what has me most excited about the direction of the Phillies, and again, doesn't happen overnight. None of this happens overnight. It takes a long time, I believe, to turn a farm system. I think the Phillies are starting to do that. But what makes me excited is that they're taking swings at upside. Like Justin Crawford hits the ball extremely hard, but he just drives it into the ground. But can you work with him to drive it out of the ballpark? Can you work with him to start driving the ball? He's already hitting over 300. He's already not striking out a ton. Now it's about lifting. Andrew Painter, a pedigree guy that, I fell because I think people are afraid of high school arms. And the Phillies are like, all right, well, we'll sit back and take him. Mick Abel was the best right-handed prospect or right-handed pitching prospect in the country that year as a high school arm. But teams are scared off by high school arms, and they're scared off by high school players. It's why there was a run in the middle of this draft of just college bats, because subpar organizations are drafting in there, and they're just worried about getting a pick right. And what gives me so much confidence about where they're going is they're not worried about. It doesn't feel like a job security pick. None of this feels like a job security pick, and you don't take a high school third baseman off an arm injury if you don't feel confident in your job status. And I would much rather have that than we're going to take like Jacob Gonzalez with the 15th pick or whoever, like these boring college picks. It's great. I think they killed it. I really did. I think that Aiden Miller is a guy that is going to totally fill out. He's going to get stronger. I think the swing is already powerful. I love the little load he has, where it's just like, that looks like a guy that is going to rake. Like, sometimes you can just tell when a guy's going to rake. Unfortunately, I have to admit, like, Austin Riley's that kind of guy. And I look at Aiden Miller and I see a little bit of Austin Riley. Like, I really do. I see a little bit of Austin Riley, a little bit of Donaldson. It's power. It's a glove that I think can fit at third base. But either way, it's a massive swing. It's a swing on upside. It's a chance at a 30 home run guy at 27 that's going to be up pretty young. And I just think he killed it. I think the Phillies killed it tonight. If you want to get in, like little YouTube comments, obviously, I was about to I was about to throw out the phone number 215-592-9494. Obviously, that's not going to work. But if you want to throw some YouTube comments in there, I would try to read them as I go. But either way, overall, I think it's just I really think it's a home run. A lot of people, some comments about Yo-Yo Morales. Like, the funny part about Aiden Miller is that I think if he went to college, he ends up being better than Yo-Yo Morales. And Yo-Yo Morales is a guy who I would have been very happy with. He turned into a major power threat at the University of Miami. But I just, if you're sizing up, do I want to take Yo-Yo Morales, who in high school I don't believe was as good as Aidan Miller, and then developed into this player, or just take the guy now? I'd rather just take the guy now. I'd rather just take Aidan Miller, and I'd rather just bet on my development staff kind of coming through. Kevin McGonigal, I mean, I know a lot of people were rooting for them to take the local kid. I think he's going to be a good player. It's not like a anti Kevin McGonigal thing. I think he's just like a second baseman. And I'll take the chance on 30 home run upside at the corners, which they need desperately, by the way. Like, if you look at the prospects, I mean, De La Cruz is developing and some power. They don't really have a power prospect. They have Justin Crawford is a guy they just took last year. He's not a power guy. Even like Stott. Like, Stott's not a huge power guy, great hitter, but not a power guy. Bohm, we keep dreaming on the power, but are we ever going to see the power? I don't know. But you look up and down, and Gabriel Rincones, I think, could be a power guy, but we'll see. He's already showing some signs of that so far. But Aiden Miller, I think, gives them again a chance at 30+ homers from one of the corner spots, which is just what you need, especially if Bohm's not going to really become a huge power guy. And we're just going to have to, and it's not like the worst thing to live with, 280, 330, 475 slug, 450 slug. Obviously, we're waiting for him to tap into his power, but we'll see. But I think Aiden Miller gives you a legitimate chance at a pretty big upside. Sports Kingdom's okay with the pick, but he's more intrigued with the following rounds. They don't have a 5th round pick. They don't have a 2nd round pick. They have a 3rd and 4th round pick. And I think my general feel is that Aiden Miller is going to cost them probably close to slot, because what was worrying me was I felt like a lot of the good high school kind of players were being floated down by the Mariners, because the Mariners have a ton of money. Like Colin, I'm not watching anymore, but I assume Colin Howe got picked by the Mariners. And I think for the Phillies to get Aiden Miller there, they probably have to go full slot. So I don't know if they have much money for the rest of the draft. They already had the least amount heading into the draft, or like one of the least amounts heading into the draft. So I don't know if this is going to. I think that the rest of the draft is going to be like just kind of senior bats and senior arms and stuff like that. Phillies finally making the right process picks, even though the results aren't guaranteed. Yeah, I mean, to me, this is what smart organizations do. I know that college players are safe, and there's obviously some upside, but it's just so much more tantalizing and so much more exciting when you get a guy who's only there because people are scared off by high school bats and high school talent in general, and you're taking a shot on that upside. And this has been my thing for the last couple of years, where it's like maybe like in 3 years, said high school players can be better than whatever college pick you're making right now. Like, I would damn near guarantee that if Aiden Miller went to school, that he ends up being a top 10 pick at some point. That's generally how I feel about the top high school talent in the draft. I mean, Aiden Miller. Again, I've watched the high school All-American game like 3 times. He started in it. He had a good defensive play early, and I think that if you're one of those guys that's starting in that game, you're a difference maker. You are something that you've caught the eye of a ton of people. And I think the only reason that Aiden Miller is a Philly tonight is because of the injury in the spring. and it's a hamate bone. It's not like arm surgery or anything. It was a break, and I think scouts got scared off by that. So I just it's an exciting night. It's an exciting night. From Adam's exploits, yes, I think Seltzer probably went to bed 2 hours ago. But it's okay because he's going to wake up with a freak out text of Aidan Miller's a Philly, which is just it's a great night. It's a great night. From Anonymous, we're seeing all the results in the stats, the minors, but nobody's talking about calling any of them up. Why is that? Do they think there's no hitters able to help the big league club? I think so Johan Rojas is pretty close. I think De La Cruz is pretty close. I just don't know where you're playing them. Like they have Marsh in center field. Pache is developing pretty well. De La Cruz, like if they want to go crazy, I think he could play first base. If they wanted to kind of go nuts. I think you're seeing more of the growth of the hitting side of player development more in the lower levels of the minor leagues and in some of the international, in the summer league kind of things. So again, it's a slow process. They had a turn from the previous regime where like it felt like a lot of players were reaching the point and just kind of stopping. What's been encouraging and frankly exciting about what is happening in the minor league system now is that you're seeing some of the prospects that were plateauing, it seemed like, starting to develop and starting to turn a corner and have breakout years like Johan Rojas, like Ethan Wilson, like De La Cruz. Justin Crawford coming in and being good immediately was not a top 100 prospect at the beginning of the year. Now is in there. Was starting in the futures game at 18 years old. So that's exciting stuff. Brandon Slicker, are they going to be able to sign him? I assume so. If not, they're going to be able to get a pick for it. But I really do think that he's going to be able to sign. Aiden Miller compared himself to Austin Riley. Great. Awesome. That's exciting. That makes me happy because if he's I got to swallow my pride here. If he's Austin Riley, we're all doing jumping jacks. Yeah, the Braves took Hurston Waldrapp, and I'm just telling you, they're gonna get the most out of him, and he's gonna be sick in a couple of years. I know, like he wasn't great in the LSU game, but I think the split changeup is one of the best pitches in baseball already. Like it is stupid. So unfortunately, yes, the Braves got it right. And I was actually hoping he was going to be there at 27. I really was. Like I'm not lying and saying, oh, Hurston Waldrapp's gonna be terrible. Like I think the Braves are gonna get the most out of him, and he'll be up and he'll be haunting our dreams being a nightmare for a while. So yeah, I think they killed it with that kind of pick. No, High Hopes voicemail line, that'd be something. Wow, Houck's still on the board? That's crazy. The Mariners took Farmello. That's another one of my boys. I think he's gonna be awesome. I think he's a classic. Like if he goes to Virginia, he ends up as a top 10 pick, much like Aiden Miller. But overall, like I appreciate all of the comments and all the good times and the good vibes. I continue to believe and will still continue to believe that for years, when all you hear about is the Phillies are bad developing and they don't know what they're doing and we all know you can't buy your way to a championship. I think what is happening and what is turning is going to pay massive dividends. And as we get out of the primes of some of the players that are here now, like the fact that you go Miller, Crawford, Painter, Abel, Griff, Bergola, Starlin Caba. Like there's good things happening under the surface here. There's a lot of, I've used the Nick Sirianni kind of thing a lot, with the whole the roots under the surface and they're growing. I think that's happening with the Phillies, and I can't give enough credit to Brian Barber. I can't, and his staff and what they're doing and just continuing to take swings, because that's what Aiden Miller is. He's a swing, and they're not shying away from it because they don't have the most slot money. Like they're taking these guys and they're banking on their development system. And I know I brought it up earlier, but bringing a guy like Preston Mattingly, who oversaw the Padres be able to turn these high schoolers into good enough players to not only make their team, but also be traded. And knowing what it took to get those guys there, I think that's what makes me honestly the most excited is that we have guys who are in place that oversaw what other teams and what made them successful at doing it here now. And if Aidan Miller, frankly, was drafted by Clentak, or if he was drafted in previous regimes, it'd probably be a huge waste of time. It probably would be one that, they're not going to be able to get the most out of him. But I think that's changing, and I think that's over. And I think that what they are doing and how they're developing these guys and taking shots on very, very high pedigree high school talent is just going to pay dividends, whether it's in trades or whether they make it to the big league club. Like in a perfect world, Aiden Miller comes up to my third baseman in 2026, and he's going to be a 30 home run guy for me for a while. But what's starting to happen here, and what is the reality of the situation, is that the Phillies are in what they believe is a World Series window. They are in a World Series window right now with a lot of players in their prime, sort of starting towards the exit of their prime. And the fact that you might need to maximize that window. So maybe Aiden Miller gets traded, but it's for some stud to make this team even better. It's an exciting time. And it's an exciting time. The big league club is playing well. There's you see what they're able to do in maximizing some of the talent they're able to go get and turn into something like Jeff Hoffman, Junior Marte, Christian Pache. And then you see everything that's happened in the minor leagues. And Brian Barber, was it Brian Barber? I think it's Brian Barber in his pre-draft media availability said, we want to build a monster here. And I mean, I get a little, get some chills thinking about that. But I just doing things like taking Aiden Miller at 27 is developing into a monster. And for anyone saying like, well, he wasn't a top 15 pick, whatever. Like Austin Riley was a second round pick. Like it happens all the time. The MLB draft is not like other drafts. It's hard to place a finger on who's going to be good. This, that, whatever. I'm just telling you, right kind of upside. I would have taken him with that pick. I would have definitely taken Halk as well. He seems to be sliding for some reason. I haven't been watching. But I just leave tonight saying, wow, what a win. There was no one really on the table that I would have rather had, besides maybe Halk. Massive win. Walker Martin, I obviously would have loved. I think he's going to be really, really good as well. But frankly, I wasn't sure Aiden Miller was going to be there. I thought Walker Martin was going to be there, so I didn't pump up Aiden Miller as much as I am now talking about him. I didn't think he was going to be there. I think when I'm surprised a plus power high school kid that only is falling because of an arm injury that's not like a tendon tear. I'm surprised that fell to the Phillies. So either way, a big night, an exciting night. It's one that I hope we look back on in a couple of years saying, wow, man, they got Aiden Miller at the 27th pick. So either way, come hang out Tuesday night. We'll have some Aiden Miller lights for Phil's wins. So Tuesday night, Seltzer and I, we are at Timeout on Pine watching the All-Star game. Would love to talk draft. Frankly, can't wait to get off this and start watching as much Aiden Miller as I possibly can. Damn it, Halk's a Met. That's not fun. Either way, Aiden Miller's a Philly. So come hang out Tuesday. We'll talk draft, and then we'll see what happens the rest of the the rest of the draft. I don't know. We'll see if they can go out and spend money on some other high pedigree high school kids. We'll see if they can do that. I assume it's going to be a struggle because I think Aiden Miller signed for a full slot, if I had to guess. So either way, exciting times. We'll be reacting to it all in high hopes. We'll have full draft breakdowns. And the fact that I just went a half hour just ranting and raving and being excited about Aiden Miller. What a night, beautiful night. And a good way to cap off the end of the week. So hope everyone has a great week. We'll be back reacting to everything that happens. Aiden Miller's a Philly. Might be time to celebrate.